10 years old standing there.
Yeah.
And went on and scored a hat-trick. And I heard one of them say, she's exceptional, but she'll not play for England. She'll never play for England because of where we're from. It was a lot harder than applying as for, a man going for it.
Well, hello and welcome to the About Small Business podcast. Particularly excited this week. It's not every day that you get the opportunity to interview a former England Lionesses player. And that is exactly what we've got this week. And I would like to introduce Aran Embleton from Aran Embleton Coaching. Aaron, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. And can we get maybe a better shot of your cap here? Which demonstrates that's your England cap, isn't it?
It is, yes. And thank you for having me. Yeah, absolutely. I've introduced, or I'm going to be launching, as from the 3rd of October.
Yeah.
Aran Embleton Coaching. And it's going to be around the northeast. First one's at Concert Leisure Centre. And
right.
We're doing 2 age groups.
Right.
First one being between 7 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then 10 and 12 years old.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, you're going to be focusing on women's football, or is it open to all?
No, it's open to all. I didn't primarily want to, focus on whether it's girls or boys.
Yeah.
Because primarily the sport needs both, and I want to coach both, to be honest. So.
Right, fantastic. So open to everyone.
Yeah,
and so obviously get yourselves down if that's the kind of thing that you want to be getting involved in. So if I can find out a little bit more about your journey, Aaron, if that's okay. Yes. So I'm assuming that when you were at school, your preference was more for the PE.
Yes, just a bit. I mean, I wasn't massively academic at school. I really pushed. I tried. But when I had a ball at my feet and I was in PE or badminton, I always wanted PE was, I think it was a Wednesday. I had double PE.
Yeah.
That was my favourite day. Absolutely loved it. So I was skipping into school on a Wednesday. But yeah, anything in sport, really, I've always been interested in. It's just, I think I was a runner for a period of time, and it was a choice between, do I continue running long distance?
So clearly you've always been sort of very physical.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
Great. And so basically when you're at school then, did you find that the women's football was frowned upon at all?
It was, yes. I mean, I could never understand. I was playing football from about 8 years old.
Yeah.
At school, the boys' team, I was picked for that at 10. And at break time...
So you actually played with the boys then?
Yeah,
right,
I played in the boys' school team and I was the only girl.
If you're enjoying this content, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to let you know exactly when another podcast's going to drop.
And I played with them before school in the yard before we got called in. Break times, dinner times, after school. I was out as soon as I came in, and I could never understand why I wasn't allowed to play football in PE. I would stand and watch, even though I was playing with these lads 24/7.
Yeah.
As a young child, naturally, I think to myself, why have I got to go and play rounders and netball, and I'm watching the same boys I was playing with an hour ago playing football or rugby? So yeah, it was hard because everything was separate. Obviously, that's not the case now, and schools have changed. But there wasn't a lot of girls' participation in the sport.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking back to my own school days, as we've said, and obviously I'm older than you. But I do recall when I was at school, believe it or not, I do actually have a netball medal.
Right, okay.
Because I remember we weren't quite as enlightened back in the day. Mm-hmm. I'm going back to sort of the 80s, 80s, 90s. I was at uni, so back in the 80s. And I do recall there were inter-house or inter-class tournaments. Yeah. And there were girls complaining that they couldn't play football. You'd get the inevitable sexist comments, but they weren't necessarily regarded. It was regarded as it was filed under banter back then. It was just like the sort of kids teasing each other. And I remember my contribution was to say, well, if you wanted to play football, I want to play netball. And they took me up on it.
Oh, wow.
and
Made
let
a
me play.
change.
That's it. They let me play netball, and I was quite tall as a child, and they just, I think it was a goal defence or something like that,
Yeah.
and they just put me in front of the goal, and I was able to stop most balls getting past.
Yeah.
And yeah, we won. I've actually got that medal. So
Oh wow.
that and that is the limit of my sporting achievement. So. So that's kind of as far as it goes, which naturally is dwarfed by your own. So I mean, that really is quite something there, to get an England cap and represent your country.
Oh, okay.
So you're at school where it's not quite as bad as what it was had you been born in the same generation as me. Yeah. But you've still got some degree of scepticism regarding your ability to play.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I do see on social media is invariably men sort of criticising the female game, and I've no doubt that you're going to be no stranger to that anyway. Yeah. And that is obviously, as you get a bit older, the physical differences.
Absolutely.
Is that something that affected you in terms of your ability to play?
Yes.
As you got a little bit older? Absolutely.
And totally get it. The FA brought in the rules of 11, that physicality of boys and girls were, it wasn't fair. Which I totally got. As a child, I didn't understand, though. I do now, obviously, as an adult, I get it.
It must have been hard for you at the time, though, because when you were able to play with boys, there's going to be no shortage of people to play with. I mean, despite my abysmal skills, I would still have a kickabout. Yeah. As you get that little bit older, sort of past that stage of puberty, and then your ability to play is going to be severely compromised, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was. And although I couldn't play in the boys' team when I got to that age, I still was playing with them outside of school, in the street. And obviously then there was no social medias, mobile phones. Everyone, you came in, had your tea and you were straight out playing after school. So I was around playing with the boys a lot. But then I was quite fortunate that the caretaker from the school and the school PE teacher, Jeff Boweran, they both went away to try and find a team for us, because they said I can't let this young girl not play anymore.
Right, okay.
So off their own backs they went and did that, and they said, I'll come back and speak to your parents once I've found something. And I'd obviously, as a kid, I'd just left it with them. And they came back a couple of weeks and said, I need to speak to your mum. And I was like, right, what's happening? They were like, I need to speak to your mum first and then we'll tell you.
Did you get in trouble much as a child? Was this something that caused you worry when they say they need to speak to your mum, or?
No, but naturally, when they say they want to talk to your parents, anyone at school, you're going to fright mode, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah, like, what have I done? But generally, no, I was quite good at school. But yeah, when they had gone off their own back, found there was only 2 women's teams in the whole of Newcastle. There's now hundreds. And gone to my parents and said, I found her a club. And the club was called Cowgate Kestrels, based in Cowgate. And they asked us, would I go training? They had a game, I think it was a Wednesday night. Yeah. Turned up with my shin pads on, thinking I was going to train, but they had a game. And they were double my age. And I'm looking across the field going, wow, these are tall, these are big, they're a lot stronger than me, bearing in mind I was very small, very skinny, and nicknamed Speedweed, so I'm thinking, picture what I looked like. I was tiny, you could literally push us. And went on, and they put me on for the last 15 minutes of the game to kind of give me a go. First turning up, didn't know the girls, well, the women really, and here's little me, 10 years old, standing there. Yeah. And went on and scored a hat-trick. And my kind of journey started from there, where that was, I think it was age 12, playing in higher league teams, which is now the sort of level of Newcastle United women are playing in the Championship. Wow. So if you've got the WSL, which you see on telly, you've got the Championship, which you see across TV now because it's been stretched down. That was the level I started to play at when I was 10 or 12 years old. Right. So it was a hard journey, but I still played with the lads in the background on a night. I still was out.
Just thinking about that, because I did actually, one of the lads that was in my year at school, he ended up playing professional football.
Yes.
I think he had to cut his career short due to injury, but I remember chatting to another lad about him, and he'd said that the lad in my year had got so good because he was used to playing with his older brother.
Yes.
And so he always had to play up to his standard.
Yeah.
Do you think it helped you, the fact that you were playing with the lads, just to raise...
150%.
Because you're going to have to work that little bit harder.
I mention this quite a lot in conversations with people, and I did because they were very quick. On top of that, there was a development centre from Newcastle, put together, Newcastle Council, and it was headed up by one of the head coaches and well known across the country, Rob Atkin. He was managing and coaching the Newcastle United men's team at the top.
Right.
So he put this together, and it was for development of young players across the northeast, but it was the elite.
Right.
So a bit like you've got the likes of Wallsend Boys Club, everyone knows their name because of who they are, and most people go in there end up in the Premier League playing as professional footballers. This was very similar, so they went and picked all the best players of the boys from, say, ages, I think it was about 12 to 14 at that point.
Yeah.
And I was picked for that. So that was at Blythe on an evening, I think it was a Thursday evening. So not only was I playing with the boys there, I then went to the development centre,
right,
and these boys were on another level. They were the best in the region, and I was competing with them, and if not matching them, better than them at times. And I remember at the time there was a scout came in. Naturally it drew scouts because these were kids that had a bright future.
Yeah.
And one of them approached my dad and said, I'm really interested, but then realised I was a girl. So, and at that point, I think Man City were bottom of the Premiership, I think. They weren't nowhere near where they are
just
now.
at that time then, I mean, you've described your appearance as like sort of small, skinny. I mean,
Yes.
did you look like, could you have been mistaken for a boy?
Yeah, a bit. Naturally, as you're blending in, because at that point, you know, girls' football, a girl playing football was few and far between.
Yeah.
It was unheard of, really. So naturally, for anyone looking from an outside point of view, watching a training session,
They could have been forgiven for.
Yeah, I could have been at a different angle in my hair and my ponytail. But having said that, because I was younger, my sister was a hairdresser, and I always wanted to cut my hair. And the reason I wanted to cut my hair, not because I wanted to be a boy, I just wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of all these things where scouts were coming, and I'm thinking, as a youngster, you don't understand. I was like, why can't I be picked? And my dad was like, because you're a girl. And at that point, women couldn't be professional footballers.
How did that make you feel, though? Because that must have been so demoralising.
It was really demoralising. I used to go home and think as a child in my own head, why this is unfair. Why can't I, you know, I'm better than all the boys. I'm getting picked out of all the best in the area, but I still can't do what they can do and go on to have a career, what they can have.
Yeah.
And I found that difficult to comprehend growing up. I used to always, like I said, at the point where I wanted to cut my hair. Not that that wouldn't have made any difference now, we know. But as a child, you think of these things.
How old were you at this stage?
I would say I was about 12.
You're about 12?
Yeah.
So what were you wanting to do with your life?
I wanted to be a professional footballer.
You wanted to be a professional footballer.
100%, yeah.
But at that stage, you realised that you couldn't, or did that sort of spark you off to think, actually, I'm going to show them? And
yeah, at that point, I was playing in tournaments. Obviously, I was part of the club that I mentioned. I joined, but again, I was on the sidelines, and because we were obviously from the northeast, a lot of the England team was from London.
Yeah.
All mainly south, I would say. There was no one from up here till back in the 1970s. So scouts and FA, you know, putting money aside and budgeting to send people up here to look at young players, women players, was unheard of again. It was all down London based. And I heard one of the parents on the sideline in one of my games, and I heard one of them say, she's exceptional, but she'll not play for England. She'll never play for England because of where we're from.
Right.
And I think I came away from that game and I never forgot that. And no disrespect to the parents, because the parents had a point. You know, they were making a point because of our location, where we live in the country. It's going to be harder for it to get noticed. But as a child at that age, then it was a catalyst of what was going to come next. Was why can't it be me? And I remember saying something to my dad in the car, and I think he tried to brush past it, thinking like, pretending it never was said, because you don't want your daughter or that in the head and make her think negatively. And I was like, why can't I play for England? Why won't anyone notice me? And I think from then on, I made it my point to drive down barriers, even as a kid, to think I'm going to get noticed, and I'm going to make sure. There's no reason why, because of where I live or where I'm from, I can't be in that team. Right.
It's just for context. It is impolite to ask a lady your age, and I'm not going to ask that. No, but when you're 12 years old, what sort of decade are we talking?
We're looking around about the mid 1990s.
Really wasn't anything going on then, was there at all?
No. I'm 43 years old now, and I look back.
I thought I got around asking that quite well.
You did.
Right, so it's you look well. You look well for your age.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I can imagine that would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, it was difficult. There was no TV coverage as we know it now on women's football. They're plastered everywhere, which is great. This is the point. You know, we've always wanted to get where we are now on the back of the women's European Championships, supercharged women's football by 10 years. So the perception has changed, but it's took a lot of hard work from years and years to have got to this point as we see women's football now on my TV, you know.
So you must have been part of that, and that must be you must feel that's a huge achievement.
100%. I always have tried to push it for that reason, these exact reasons that I grew up in. At the challenges I had, which was a lot of them, and the barriers I had to break down to get to where I needed to be.
Well, there are going to be hundreds of barriers that you had to break down. As I say, it's knowing how old you are, that does really contextualise things for me, because I didn't even realise around about the 90s that girls would be even interested.
No.
You know, even going on sort of a decade after that, that's still going to be. So I mean, at what point for you did you think, actually, I'm making some progress? I am breaking down a few of these barriers, and things might actually change.
I think when I was 14 and I was in a tournament at Pontyland, the old police headquarters.
Yeah.
And because there was a lot of noise with me playing football at that time and being noticed, luckily one of the managers from a different club went and spoke to the England manager, sent email. No, I don't even know, there wouldn't even been emails there, but made phone calls to say, come and look at this young girl playing for us up the northeast. And luckily he did come, and he came to that tournament, which was a Coca-Cola tournament. And after the game, my dad said, the England manager's been, Aaron. And I was like, what? Where was he? And he was like, he's gone now, but he's been. I went, was anything said? He went, well, I don't know. I wasn't standing with him, but he has been. And it was about a week later, I was called up to me first England camp, which was a training camp for the week down in London at Bisham Abbey.
Right.
And that was the England headquarters at that point, not like St George's Park is now. And I went down, and they were double my age. They were the players that I'd seen on posters when we used to get magazines. And this little lass from Dudley, that's when I thought, I can do this. There was apprehension. I was scared.
Yeah.
But I also had that excitement and fire in my belly as a youngster. I'm 14, they're in their 20s, some of them nearly 30s. And can I compete against these? Am I good enough to play?
But at that point, you can then see people that you can identify with and role models, I suppose.
Yeah, they were my role models.
That give you that encouragement to
100%.
To believe that actually, yes, we can make something of this.
Yeah, like the likes of Kelly Smith, who's well known in women's football now. The likes of Gillian Coulthard, 130 odd caps, Karen Walker. They then later on became part of the club I moved on to as part of my teammates. But I think although I didn't know at the time, that was the changing point, because I'd already then broke down a barrier between a girl from the northeast to a team full of southern players playing for Arsenal.
This is quite interesting as I'm listening to you, because you've got two lots of barriers, haven't you? It's like almost like you've not realised you're just smashing down northeast barriers, and you're also smashing down the barriers of being a female, and then a female from the northeast to even get a fighting chance.
Yeah, and, it was difficult.
Yeah,
there was a lot of hard work training. A bit like my coaching. What I'm doing now is my dad did that. He paid for me, and I went to coaching academies separately on top of outside of my clubs, and that was additional training. Which gave me it made us more sharper. Communication skills, like everything, even socially, because I was playing with the lads all the time. It was interacting socially again. But yeah, there was a lot of that barriers all the way through, and then I hit that point, and then England introduced the England women's under-18s, because at that point England women only had England women. They didn't have what they have now, which is under-21s, under-18s.
Yeah.
Not on the women's side, and the men's, of course. Yeah. But the women's wasn't at that level yet. They had got that team, and it was then starting to introduce other levels, and it was about the development, but the money wasn't in the development for years, like it is now.
Yeah.
So I was playing full international, but I was still in the age bracket for under-18s England. So I was playing at both. And the FA then started to be able to put a lot more money into women's football. The sponsorship slowly started dribbling. And it was still difficult.
What time frame are we talking now? When was this, would you say?
I would say 2000.
Right,
Just maybe the back end of the 90s into 2000.
Right, okay.
We were still backpacking at club level.
I'm going to say, I mean, I suppose football itself isn't really on my radar, but naturally a lot of my friends would have been into football, and it wasn't something that was widely talked about compared to what we have now.
Yes.
So there's still clearly at that time still a lot of work to do, but interesting that it is starting to get funding at that stage.
Yeah, it was starting to get funding slowly. I mean, not a lot, but like I say, the FA then had the under-18s introduced, which was great. So there was some development there coming through. Club level, no women's professional team at that point still. Even at WSL level, as we know it now, where all the teams are professional, even going into the championship.
Yeah.
There was none of that. We were going purely a bit like a hobby. And a lot of the players, we all had jobs, I mean, I was going to the first ever women's academy, which was going to be literally introduced at that point at Durham. Was the first one in the country, and then they replicated that down the country for a sports academy. So
the jobs that you've had, have they always just been something to help pay the bills while you pursue
absolutely
what's obviously clearly your passion?
100%. A lot of the England players, they all had jobs, and it was hard to get away from your jobs to play for your country. They had more so of that than I did, because like I say, the FA then started to say, right, we want to trial something now. We want to try a sports academy. So we can get young developing youth players and give them an education, but also give them football full time, paid for by us.
Yeah.
So they then launched East Durham and Hoffel College, was the first in the country to have a women's football team and a men's academy. Now, as we know it now, it worked because they're in every single pretty much city. We go Gateshead Academy, we can go down the whole country. They've replicated it, and it worked.
Did you never want to get a job at one of these places?
So I know at the latter stage of my career, yes. But I was also as well worried because, again, it was hard to get into being a coach, being a woman coach. Yeah. So if you applied for a role or a job, no disrespect to a lot of people, and they'll probably agree with us that it was a lot harder than applying as for a man going for it. Women's
it's interesting because my experience of women's football, I've got two daughters and they both played at grassroots level, and most of the coaches that I would, obviously they played for male coaches
Yeah.
who were brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of the coaches that would come across were also male as well. So I think
Yes.
we've still got that.
Yes.
I've got a friend who's a female coach. Her team did pretty well, and come across other teams where they've had a female coach, and those teams have been doing really well.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's still a work in progress, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, the FA have got a big drive currently now for to get more women coaches in football. Which is it's a great positive to see, and I wish there was a lot more. But back in that time, as you can appreciate, that
even as a coach, it's not really an option for you.
It wasn't really an option. Although I did do my licenses very early at 17 years old,
right,
at Durham, and that was part of the academy, and they had that introduced to say, you're also gonna, go through your coaching licenses.
Yeah.
So we did that. But at the end of that, as you can imagine, like, it was still difficult. I did a little bit of coaching in Sunderland in the community for them. But it wasn't a stable income. It was more so I could get involved when it came to summer holidays, but that's not going to pay your bills, is it?
No, well, I mean, that's just one thing that's striking me about this conversation so far. It's like, for young lads, I think, I would hope most people for football it is a passion, but with the men's game, there is that big money, and it's like, it's that dream ticket.
Yes.
Training, doing something that you love, that you're passionate about, and you end up becoming a millionaire with this lifestyle that goes with it.
Yeah.
For you, it doesn't seem like that's even on the radar. It's just all you're caring about, and it's like that. I just want to play football.
Yeah.
Let me play football.
Yeah.
And do what you love doing.
That's it. And it was at that point there was no money to give us a wage, and we did it for the love of playing football.
Yeah.
And as a coach, like I say, I was a coach from 17. Again, that wasn't really an option because.
Were you then coaching boys as well?
Yes, both.
How did the lads react to you as a female coach? Did you find that's...
Back then, it was very difficult because they tended not to be engaged. You could say when I was walking up with my balls and cones, I would get looks like, why is a girl coaching us?
Yeah.
Like, and I knew that, and I could feel it, and I could hear it. So it was difficult, and I had to feel like even if it was just with a ball for a couple of minutes at the start of a session, it was like as though you're having to audition yourself, being honest. Like,
what about the parents as well? I mean, we get the same sort of attitude.
Yeah, same sort of attitude.
We never tempted just say, I can't be bothered with this. Or
not really, no. Because me heart was always there.
Yeah.
Like, it was always...
There's a push through.
I believed in my ability to deliver, like, and give them good quality training, and I would do a few skills before I started, even myself, catching the ball on my neck. Things that you see now where players are keeping the ball up around the world, all this kind of stuff.
Did you find that shut people up?
Yeah, as soon as I did that, I gained respect.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have had to do that. But that's the way it was. You had to do that because otherwise it was kind of why is a girl coaching my son or daughter?
Just out of curiosity, your view on that, do you think as a society we're kind of failing allowing that to happen?
Yeah.
Or do you think that, well, actually it kind of worked out well for you because you proved yourself, and in many respects you probably got a bit more respect than the equivalent male coach?
Yeah.
Is there that side to it, or do you just think I shouldn't have had to... For my perspective, my view is you shouldn't really have had to go through that.
I shouldn't have had to do that, but the sport wasn't popular. It wasn't like the USA.
Yeah.
I had 2 scholarships for the USA at 16, and the difference between there and here was you've gotten worlds apart. They had women footballers on TV. Mia Hamm, she was getting paid £7 million for a Nike advert. It was bigger than men's soccer in America.
Yeah.
It was on the radar, and it was one of the biggest sports in that country, bearing in mind we're sitting here and we had I don't know, maybe 40, 50 teams in the whole country.
Yeah.
There was no comparison at all.
The fact that it's so big in America, and I'm going back to my achievement with the netball, which I suppose really, I mean, I'm being a little bit flippant mentioning that in some ways, but from a male perspective, netball is something. As a boy, we would never have dreamed of playing netball.
Yeah.
It would have been really frowned upon. And if I'd have genuinely wanted to play netball, I mean, I still wasn't anywhere near good enough to play that. But it's something that I would have got stick for. It's something that I would have been looked down on for, and it's.
I feel for me that's a generation piece. Like,
well, I'm just wondering though if like the fact that in America is soccer, as they would call it, is soccer being looked at in the same way as maybe netball would have been looked at in this country, and therefore potentially harming the progress for the international game.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, is that something that you were aware of, or?
Not really. I've seen the size difference. I know that. They asked me to go over to have a look at the university there.
Yeah.
And it was Connecticut State University I went to, and I was gobsmacked as a youngster. Like, I seen what they had. Like, even the canteen. I was a bit like, this is just unreal. But again, the academy piece we have now, which is 20 years later in the UK, was happening in America 20 years ago.
Right.
So their development was way streets ahead of us, years upon years, decades ahead of us. So we're now seeing it, and it's now everywhere around us, but that was happening in America way before us. That's why they dominated women's football in the world.
When you see what's going on now, is there a teeny little part of you that's a little bit resentful, that just you wish that had been there for you, or are you just proud?
I'm proud
that you've helped kind of drive it to that position.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Like, for me, it's more so of the impact that I've helped to achieve.
Yeah.
So, yes, in anything in life, things are like that. Unfortunately, you have where, things need to improve. There's more money, there's more sponsorship for things to grow and grow and grow. And that wasn't there at my point, but I feel like I knocked doors down for other people because the doors opened for the likes of Jill Scott.
Yeah.
They'd opened the doors for Steph Horton, Lucy Bronze. We can go out. There's about 5 or I think there's probably about 8 or 9 now from the northeast that's now represented the country beyond me.
It struck me, as I say, from my involvement with my daughters, and been the soccer dad, going up and helping out putting the nets up, which really was the limit of my ability in that respect. But it did seem quite incredible and very, very different. I have to say, from the closest, but the northeast does seem to have to be a real driving force in women's football, particularly at the minute.
Yes.
And I remember going to see the Lionesses play at St James's Park, and the atmosphere is very different as well. Because I mean, I've got a few friends that they tend to take it's not as good as male football. But to me, it's not male football.
No.
And for me, as someone, I mean, I'm not someone that's passionate about the game.
Yeah.
But I've been to a couple of football matches with the lads. 2 football matches with the lads. But it just didn't appeal. But being able to take my daughters to watch the women's football, game. The whole thing was, to me, what sport should be about. It's a family event.
Yes.
And I've travelled quite a bit, and it's interesting, like in America, and which you've already mentioned, the sport's a family thing. It's what are you going to do this weekend? Well, the family are going to go to this sporting event.
Yes.
Same in Australia. We went to lots of sporting events, and it's a family occasion where families are going with, and you can quite safely take children. Now, I know you can now, but there is still that feeling that it could kick off.
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, at the time you were playing, so before that, I do remember when we got banned from Europe, I was actually watching that on TV as it happened. But we've had all these hooligan problems, and it's not always been the place that you would
want to take children
want to take children or even a partner.
Absolutely. No, you're quite right, and it is more of a community. That's how I feel, and I've did some of BBC Radio Newcastle when the Lionesses were St James's, and again, that was a massive thing for me, quite emotional for me, because of all these years and thinking that's one place I always wanted to play was St James's, because I'm black and white through and through. But to see that we've got to that point where the FA then now they're having games the North East, Midlands, South. It's not just always the South. And the fact that with the amount of support as I've seen in that stadium was emotional for us, because I played for England with 2,000 and 3,000. Now the Lionesses are getting 90,000 plus.
Yeah.
We go to St James's, we're eventually getting a women's game at St James's internationally, and I'm seeing the stadium with 40,000, 35,000.
Yeah.
So I seen the change, and I think that's what it was for me. It hit home. It's like, wow, when we're there, there's still a lot to do, but we're nearly there. And it was great to see they're having fun, the kids, the face painting, and like I say, it's a community, not rather than like, you know, the pints and the loudness of.
From an observer's perspective, it seems that the only thing that's not there is perhaps the money.
Yes.
Whereas, the levels of success that the Lionesses have enjoyed are dwarfing what the men's team are achieving.
Yeah.
It's, as I say, from an observer and from someone that is, I'm not passionate about the game, so I will defer to people. People may have a different view if they've grown up following men's football, then that's fine. But from my perspective, it is just nice that you've got this sport that you can. You've taken the alcohol away, you've taken the hooliganism away, and you can just enjoy it as an occasion. Get excited and have fun, because to me, I wasn't good at sport, but it should be fun.
100%.
Going for a kickabout after work or something like that. Something I did when I worked as a teacher. We'd have a game of five-a-side, and it didn't matter who won. It was a bit of a laugh. We had some, we did have some one former professional player actually, and I also made sure I was on his side. I felt that balanced it. So. Yes. but it meant, but that was it. Whereas even growing up, it's like I just felt I couldn't really even play because I wasn't good. It wasn't my thing. And it's like, well, you're not going to stick with something that you're not great at. So if you've got other options, but it's just quite amazing to see your story and how that's developed into what it is now, and it must be absolutely amazing for you, really. Yeah,
I mean, standing singing national anthem for your country. There's no one can describe that feeling. No. Nobody. It's a fact of all the hard work you've put in and all the years of training, and you're standing there, and eventually you've got to the point where you're representing your country. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a fantastic career. It's now for me is inspiring the next generation. Yeah. And although I started that from a young age for to try and push down barriers. Yeah. I'm now retired. But want to help others develop their skills. It might be the fact that they might have mental health problems, and it helps people come out of the space where they're at. Yeah. There's many reasons, but now for me, my passion's now moved over from my playing side to my coaching side. Yeah. To helping others, Well,
it sounds, to be fair, like that's always been there as well.
It has. Yeah. It has.
It's I think given the character that you've shown, smashing down all the barriers that you've faced, I've no doubt that your coaching school is going to be a success, because I can't see you accepting it not being, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm a bit determined.
But a brilliant way to be. And Aaron, it's been a genuine pleasure. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Cheers, and I wish you every success with it in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.